So this session this afternoon, we want to talk a little bit about unmanned aircraft, or UAS. So we're going to spend about an hour talking about these unmanned aircraft. In the first half hour, we're going to talk about kind of the hobby recreational side of unmanned aircraft. The second half hour talks a little bit more about the commercial side. And so with us for the first part here, we have Max Minot. He's from the Minot, is it the Aeroport hobby shop? And they're located out at the airport here. They brought a bunch of their little displays, and they'll fly some drones for us, and I'll turn it over to those guys.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Glad to be here. My name is Max Minot. As Mike was saying, we have the Aeroport hobby shop. It's on North Hill. If you're going up there, Hardee's is on your left. The hobby shop's on your right. So we have seen a whole big explosion of personal drones and UAS in the last couple of years, and that's what we brought here today, a few samples. What George and Clint are flying right now is a small model called the Kodo. And it's really surprising the advances they've made in the last couple of years. This little guy has a camera with a 2 gigabyte smart micro card on there. You take video and pictures. And with the advances, they've really made it reasonable. Cost-wise, this drone will go for $60. They are making very quality drones as well. Actually, last year, we assisted in the drone camp for kids in Tioga. It was a real neat experience, and there were about 75 kids involved there, and the message there was to look at UAS and that there could be future in UAS, even as a career. UND was there, had represented Professor Bridewell, and they also talked about some other things that we'll go later. But each child that participated in the 2-day event received one of these drones. And at the end of the event, 69 kids were flying them at the same time in a hangar. It's pretty amazing. And there were a lot of crashes, but none of the drones were damaged. So that was one of the nice things that we saw. They're really durable, and you know, they're a fun little experience. You can see these two guys are pretty experienced with that. So that's kind of a little bit, that something like this is a nice for anyone who's just kind of interested a little bit, learning the basics of how to fly a drone, which is easier than planes really, because you have the 4 motors as opposed to trying to balance a plane. Some of the other advances that have been done with personal drones, and we have different examples here. One of the areas is called FPV, or first person view. And what that is whereas the Kodo has a camera and will take video, you have to take out the card and plug it into a computer to see what you've taken. First person view will give you the vantage point of the drone. So you will see from the drone, you can video from the drone, take pictures from the drone. And that's can be done for recreation, and it can also be done for commercial. People will use that. And there's 2 different types of first person view that's set up. One is with a screen where it could be attached to the transmitter, or it could be separate. Some other versions will come where you have your smartphone and you attach on your control, and you will see from that viewpoint. That's one of the types of first person view. The other that you'll see with these guys are with goggles. So they'll put the goggles on, and they will be flying from the drone using the goggles. So what we have there is the screen that was passed up front. You'll see that, and what Clint and George will be flying from their goggles. It can take a little bit of practice to get used to seeing through the goggles. We'll get a chance there. Sometimes it can be dizzy. You may have seen on TV that this has expanded into a sport, drone racing. If you take a look at ESPN2, every week they will have the drone racing league, and that's kind of an exciting thing to take a look at. And in the Tioga camp last year, there was representatives from LM Wind Power that brought some racing drones and showed how that can be done. So this is kind of sport-wise, it can be kind of a different type of perspective. So here we see George flying from there. We'll see, they can see the screen, and you would see up here how it is. So that's one thing as an individual personal recreational drone, or it can move into drone racing. And there's actually a drone racing club in Grand Forks. With Airport Hobby, my mother has the store up on North Hill. I've opened a branch in Grand Forks. And to get a little more involved with the drone environment, Grand Forks, the university, has a big teaching even careers in UAS, so it's really beneficial for us to be there. And they have a drone racing club, which I've met the people, and they'll go and they'll set up and they'll do this is the type of things through a race course. So it's pretty neat, and if you get a chance to look at ESPN2 and that drone racing, you'll get a chance to see some high speed and kind of Hollywood type of stuff here.
So would this kind of be the introductory to, I mean, would this, if they were going to get drone racing, would this be the first?
Yeah, I mean, if that is of interest to drone racing, one of these models would be a good starting point. Even the Kodo is good to learn how to fly, but probably an FPV either with the screen or with a set of goggles. Now, people who get involved in drone racing, it can be a little expensive to start. I mean, to recognize whether you build your own drone or buy one made, a kit, there are a few parts that are a little bit, are a considerable investment. You can get a transmitter controller that you see George using there. That can be $200 to $300. Goggles can be from $200 to $500 now. Those are kind of the one-time investments. The drones, racing drones especially, have a lot of crashes, and those are quite fixable and not as expensive. But if you're going to be looking at the sport, you kind of want to have a frame of mind between $600 and $800 as an entry. So certainly, especially if you're new, you know, a suggestion we would have something small like this. Start looking online. There's certainly a whole lot of information. Get in contact with the Racing Drone Club in Grand Forks or through us. You know, that's certainly possible. And other people getting to know, like George and Clint. If you stop by and talk to them, you know, those are our contacts if that's of interest. So there is kind of two types of ways to expand once you start from the small individual drone like the Kodo. The other kind of way that people will go with drones is to something like a camera drone. The Phantom or the DJI product is a very popular and well-known, high-quality product. Those will be used for, you know, they're not stunt things, they're not going to do flips. They'll be used for photographing fields, houses, inspections, windmill inspections, you know, that different type of stuff, or recreationally, if you go to national parks or things like that. Something like this is very high quality 4K camera type of stuff that, you know, has movie type level quality of video. But then when you get to something like this, they have different generations. Phantom starts 2, 3, 4. Now they're at Phantom 4, and that will run about $1,200 at this point. The next level up from DJI, which is kind of the leader, is called the Inspire, and that will probably be $2,000 or more, but the advances are incredible. You may see different movie directors even using the Inspire. There's the show Mythbusters that you can see once in a while. If you see the drone flying, the one they use is the Inspire. So the basic setup for something like that is like $2,000 or even more, and a big portion advanced from there can be the cameras. You can invest in tens of thousands of dollars in a camera with thermal projection and things like that. And We actually had a case like that where someone bought a Phantom last year and put a thermal camera on there. The reason they were doing that is because they were looking for a lost dog. With the thermal camera, they were able to find the dog that had buried himself underground in a badger hole. So that was pretty neat. It was out by Tioga, and they were able to save the dog. So that's kind of a nice story that was done. What Clint is going to show here now is kind of a hybrid when you look between the drone that will do tricks and things like that, a sport drone, and the camera drone. This is a drone issued by Traxxas, which will also do a lot of cars and stuff. It's a hybrid, so it does have a few different modes. One is the camera mode, where it's very stable. It has a button to hover, and if you're taking photography, it will provide that stable, is to take pictures. It's a very durable drone. It will last, and in North Dakota, wind is certainly an issue outside. This drone's been out in 30, 35 mile an hour wind, and will function just fine. Out of the box, it will go 50 miles an hour, and on days like where you do have that wind at your back, we've had it over 80 miles an hour, which is pretty amazing. They'll fly it out at the flying field that's north of Minot, which is planes and drones out there. Which these guys certainly have information, and at the hobby shop about the flying field. And for something like this, instead of set up a showing there if somebody were interested in seeing it work outside. But the camera mode, again, is very stable, but it's also with the sport mode, which is a little more fun. It'll do the flips, it'll do the speed. It's a nice thing if you're not wanting the movie-type quality of photography and want to have some fun. GPS mode? GPS, yes. It will return to home, and it usually has GEO fencing, so if it gets too far, it will come back to home. It will take away the control from you, and it will bring it back right to where you took off.
How about altitude?
Altitude, it does have a setting too, so that it'll take away from control from you when it goes too high. Now you can get the control back, but it will either come back to home if you don't take that control back. But it has both those type of both distance and height. What's that?
Will that climb first when it comes home?
Yes. So that's kind of the hybrid if you're looking for a type of entertainment in between a camera and, for outside. So what George is now looking at is a specifically made racing drone. These, again, are more expensive in the sense compared to the other ones because they have very durable carbon fiber parts, because when you're flying these at such high speeds, there's a lot of crashing. And, the most that usually you'll break our props and stuff because of the frame, carbon fiber, and different things like that. So as they get that ready, any questions at this point? Yes.
Are you able to buy insurance for your drone, your $2,000 drone, your $10,000 camera?
Yes, there's different types. The question is, can you buy insurance for your drones? Like the $2,000 drone we were talking about, the Inspire from DJI. DJI does have maintenance plans, and each one is a little different. You would look at the type of plan from DJI. DJI has another product called the Mavic, which is very similar to the Phantom 4, but it's small like this. It's a brand new product. And I know the details on that warranty. It'll be something like for the first year, and in that case, even if it's your error, they will replace a full new drone for $75. And then if you do it a second time, it's $129. So when you spend $1,000, that type of insurance is very good on the type of thing. The maintenance on the DJI products can be quite expensive. We go through a registered DJI repair company in Minneapolis, and it's like $100 an hour. And with the insurance, then that's the offset that.
Okay, so flip sides, can you buy liability insurance?
Liability, what you would go with that type of stuff probably is make sure you have an AMA license. And that will we'll cover you with certain things. And certainly through the AMA, looking at, you know, the details on what type of coverage is there. I'm sure there are other types of coverages as well besides that, but that's kind of the beginning points that would start for insurance-wise.
What's the AMA like?
How much is it?
No, what is?
What is it?
It's the Aeronautical Modelers Association. It's highly recommended if you fly any kind of RC aircraft to get it. It's about $75 a year, but you get up to $300,000 of liability insurance, $1,000 theft insurance, just a bunch of different stuff for the $75 that you get. It's really
Yeah,
quite a good
it's the Aeronautical Modelers Association. And when you become part of the flying club out at the field in Minot, and it's the same in Grand Forks, they have a flying club, you need to be registered as an AMA member. So all of us here are that, and because of that, because if you're flying there, I mean, you can't fly if you don't have that insurance with those clubs. So that is a part. Now, you don't have to be a member of the club to have the insurance, but if you do become, all the registered AMA clubs require that insurance.
You guys have information on the clubs? I mean, if someone would come by a drone, you give, you know, hey, here's the information for the local club if they wanted to join?
Yeah, again, Clint and George are members. You come to the store and Clint has lots of details. I mean, certainly, you know, that's easily accessible. They have a website, they have things like that, so certainly that's easily available.
It's Minot Modelers there, Minot Aircraft Modelers Association.org. Just do a Google search for Minot Aircraft Modelers.
So, and then I would know that people are from all over the state, so, you know, in Bismarck, they have one, Grand Forks and Fargo, I'm assuming as well. Are there some smaller towns that have as well, or do they have to come to one of the bigger towns to get involved in a club like that?
There are lots of small ones. It's kind of, I mean, it is growing a lot. A lot of times there are small that aren't very active. So that's how it's kind of been growing, and it kind of fluctuates sometimes. And planes and drones are a little separate. It's kind of starting to mesh together, but a lot of people are either plane guys or drone guys. But it is kind of growing together. So yes, there are lots of other little clubs, but sometimes they're not active. So that's kind of right now where there's a concentration in Grand Forks, Minot, and I think Fargo and Bismarck as well.
Can I touch on the insurance thing
Yeah.
real quick? I own one of the DJI Mavics. Awesome little machine. It folds up. Just one of the most portable, high-end quadcopters or drones that you can get these days. There's a Facebook page for the owners of that, and there's a lot of people on there that are going to State Farm, Allstate, and getting a personal articles policy for about $60 to $75 a year, no deductible, 100% replacement.
Thanks, George. Question here?
Doesn't the FAA have to have a number on these things now?
There is registration for FAA types of things. It's important to check with your drone. I mean, those types of things. If it's over 0.55 pounds, you're supposed to register it. So, I mean, it's good.
And the number has to be on the machine.
They all do come with a number. So I think when you register, there's a spot for your serial number. So, especially all the Phantom things and all the high quality, they all have serial numbers.
That's a GoPro hanging underneath that?
No. DJI has their own cameras that they will put on their products. What we saw, the Aton earlier, the red one, that has a brace where you would put a camera like a GoPro. But the other DJI products and the other really high level always come with their own camera. So, yes.
They use the same frequency as the RC?
Does the Phantom use the same
I
frequency?
mean, all of it. What frequencies they use?
They've pretty much done. I'll let George talk a little bit there. They've kind of made a lot of improvements. There was previously a lot of problems with, buying into the different ones, but they've made some changes, and go ahead, George, on that.
It used to be 72 megahertz, and the problem with that is you only have 6 available slots per channel. So you can only fly 6 aircraft at a time. They've upgraded to 2.4 gigahertz, and you can have, like they said, when they did their Tioga show, they had 60-something aircraft all flying in the same place at the same time. 2.4 gigahertz, they channel hop. So if you start getting interference, if it's a quality receiver, a quality transmitter, they'll search for a clear channel. and lock onto that one until it starts getting interference.
So which different than an RC channel?
No, those are RC channels.
Oh.
Yes.
RC is pretty much gone to 2.4 gigahertz exclusively because of the lack of interference when you have multiple aircraft flying in the same area. And the range on the 2.4 gigahertz is above 4,000 feet. So you get something like that at 4,000 feet, you might still be able to see it, but it's going to be a little spec, and you're not going to be able to.
Well, I remember with the RCs, it seemed to me there was how many channels you had, but you had to have a flag on it.
Right, that was with the old 72 megahertz system, and that was, you were limited to 6 aircraft per channel at that time.
Okay, a lot in the last few years. It's made it a lot simpler for anyone to get into aircraft, something you don't have to worry about interfering or crashing somebody's far more expensive aircraft. You can pretty much just pop yours up right away and not have to worry about having issues.
So another of the neat kind of advancements they keep continuing is a hybrid plane drone. So this one has the motors and propellers you'll see to take off like a drone. And then what this one will do, if you saw it in the flying field, is the propellers will move down like that, and then it will fly as a plane. So there are a lot of So you see now, then they go down, and then it will fly as a plane. So it's kind of like a Harrier jet in the sense, start like that, and then take off. So it's pretty neat, all the things that they're doing. It's amazing. They keep coming out with new types of advancements, the FPV, these types of things, and prices are real reasonable to get involved. It's kind of a real exciting thing, especially in North Dakota, the things that go on in Tioga and at the campus of UND. How much does that cost? The Convergence is called, I think it's
From 249 without a controller or battery.
There are, when you look at planes or drones, there's a difference, especially if you're looking at prices. They will have what you call bind and fly, for people that already have transmitters and batteries and types of things. So then you just get the plane and you just connect. That's kind of what I was saying. If you have that investment of one transmitter, you can save several hundred planes on that controller. So that's some of the cost. It's usually about $20, $30 more for ready to fly. That's what you would look, and then that comes with a transmitter and batteries. But if you're looking, HorizonHobby.com is one that sells this and a lot of things like that, and we are distributors for Horizon Hobby.
That one also has a bay underneath where you put an FPV camera, so you can actually fly that FPV also.
So FPV is certainly the future, and the future is now.
So I got thinking, who's having you go down another
Yeah, a lot of people get the drone and say, "Oh, it's so great for my dog and cat," you know. Other questions?
Will they all follow you? The farmers want to follow you?
Yeah, the follow me feature is not on all of them. Kind of the breaking point, we saw the Aton, that will be like 300 and 350 with tax, something like that. That won't have. That'll have geofencing, GPS return, air brake for hover, but it doesn't have the follow me. The next kind of step up is when you get to a Phantom series or something like that. Then they'll have the follow me. The Phantom 4 has crash avoidance, where if it's going, it will move around something, especially if you've hit like the return to home and you don't see it. The Phantom 3 would just come back to you, and if there was a tree there, it hit it. The Phantom 4 will see the tree and then come around. So they continue to make advances. But yes, that follow me or the return to home, there's probably, you know, where you get to the higher end.
How much is that going to do with all that stuff on it?
This one is $1,200 right now. That's the, when you look at DJI, the Mavic that we were talking about has the same type of thing. That drone's $1,000, but you can get it $1,300 with a bundle pack, extra batteries and
Then
things
you
like
got
that.
to have all this other stuff on it, so then what's...
Right, that's where that bundle pack for the Mavic is $1,300. This one would be ready to go. You'd probably get another battery You could use the box for a carrying case, but yeah, I mean, a couple $100 is easy to add on stuff, pretty easy. The batteries can be $150. The backpack, if you want, $125. I mean, they have it all, and unfortunately, DJI is really proprietary, so you get stuck on them, and you got to buy from them.
Can you trade it in?
Trade it in, you'd probably be looking to sell like on an eBay or something like that. They don't do like upgrades or anything, and the Phantom 3 is not compatible with the Phantom 4, so you can't like use the batteries from the 3 to the 4. So that's another thing kind of about DJI, but you can get, as a beginner also, you could start with something like a Phantom 3. You can get a brand new one for maybe $400 now, or eBay, some things I would, I kind of hate to go to eBay because you never know. Brand new one's the best to be able to get the type of DJI supported maintenance and things like that. So, battery packs?
Are they standard batteries or special?
Well, they're not special. I mean, they aren't like regular AA or something. There's different types of C rating, of milliamps, and each one will have, a special battery for it. If you look in there, will be a battery pack. Mostly are lithium polymer. So, and batteries, will probably range $10 to $30 usually, something like that.
Recharge?
Yes, they are all rechargeable. There's a couple examples.
How long can that fly in the charge?
This one will probably go 5 to 10 minutes. When you're looking at most drones, the smaller end drones, you're looking 3 to 12 minutes, depending on the drone. Something like this, again, you're paying for price. Now they've got the batteries going 28 minutes. So that's kind of a big thing. But when you're thinking drones, it's generally a small, short flight time, 3 to 12, something like that. Other questions?
I heard a rumor that the law enforcement has devised a way to hack in them, they can return home.
Hack in and return to home. I mean,
Just make it return home.
I mean, there are standard things to return to home. I mean, certainly with the technology, people will be looking to do, so many things, and they are being used in law enforcement. I think Grand Forks might have been the first law enforcement agency.
If there's any good flying one around and doing something wrong, we could tell it to go back home.
Yeah, I haven't heard. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't surprise me, but they're pretty with the technology separate. Even like we were talking about 69 drones, and you weren't able to control the other ones. So, I mean, certainly possible.
Once they're locked on, it's very difficult for somebody else to lock onto it because it's bound to that particular control. Not impossible, obviously, but very difficult. You'd have to have a lot of specialized equipment to be able to hack into it.
Okay, so got some cards up here. My mom's got a card. I've got a card from Grand Forks. Feel free to contact us. Stop by and see Clint. Again, North Hill. If you look on your left, Hardee's. To the right is the Airport Hobby. For any more questions, my email is aeroporthobbyguy@hotmail. And I tried to make that easy to remember. We thank Mike for the time, and we'll be around. SkySkopes is coming up now, and they're a wonderful company in Grand Forks, and I know several people in that company. They've really done a great thing in promoting drones. They have now teaching classes to help people get the Part 107, where you look about what you need to do for commercial usage. So they're really excellent, and I've seen them at different places. Know some of it's a great company, great to have in North Dakota. So thanks Mike.
A lot. Thanks a lot. All right, so like Max said, up next we have Matt Dunleavy from SkySkopes. He's going to talk a little bit about the commercial use of these unmanned aircraft, or commercial use of drones, and the Part 107, that side of things. It's hard not to think of SkySkopes when you think of commercial use of drones in North Dakota. So Matt, without further ado, thanks. Here's that mic.
Thank you very much for that. Welcome, Mr. Mike McHugh, and excellent job to the gentleman at Aeroport Hobby. Appreciated the kind words. It's an honor to be here today, and this is my first aviation symposium in North Dakota, and so far it looks great, and I'll hope to get here to the next year's as well. Representative Schreiberbeck, see you out there. We have a distinguished audience, and just a little bit about myself. My name is Matt Dunleavy. I am the president and CEO of SkySkopes. We are a nationally leading unmanned aircraft systems flight operator. We have just around 30 unmanned aircraft systems pilots, all certified at the University of North Dakota, which we know in North Dakota is the Harvard of the sky. I teach unmanned aircraft systems at the University of North Dakota in the College of Engineering and in the College of Business and Public Administration. And I'm here to speak to you today just a little bit about the new commercial nature that unmanned aircraft systems represent as a frontier, and those regulations that have only recently come into fruition here and in full force in North Dakota that allow companies such as mine to operate and run as a business and make profit. So I think that the gentleman here at Aeroport Hobby did an outstanding job showing off some of the unmanned aircraft that they're selling. And we started out with aircraft like this back in the days of what was called the 333 exemption, which came about in the aerospace system of the United States of America in around 2014. And it's necessary to consider this history before we talk about Part 107 and where we were at as hobbyists under Section 336, being able to fly not-for-profit, before we can see where we are now and where we can go forward from. So in 2014, it was only the major companies such as CNN that could afford high-price attorneys and law firms to go and do battle for themselves and pay for it at the level of the Federal Aviation Administration. And since then, you've seen people that aren't even attorneys that are advertising their what almost amount to as legal services to help petition companies to get such 333 permissions from the FAA. Now, just a reminder here, so 333 was the regulation that said that you could fly unmanned aircraft, not unlike this DJI Phantom like this, which was the first brand of unmanned aircraft that we flew commercially. You can't fly them commercially unless you have that stamped blessing from the FAA. And we got into business in October of 2014, seeing that other people out there had set the precedent with the FAA, saying that we can fly these unmanned aircraft. We've been flying manned aircraft since 1903. These aren't necessarily too different in terms of equivalent levels of safety. We can demonstrate this, and we can go out and make profit. So my company and I, sitting in an office, literally, decided, why can't we submit such a petition to the FAA? And we did in October of 2014 when we were incorporated. It wasn't cheap. We started on a grant for payroll and for this petition, and we got this petition having ran on fumes for around 6 months. On the 6th of June in 2015, we did get that Section 333. And it was suffocatingly restrictive, meaning we were lucky that we were geographically located next to the University of North Dakota, because there is a pool of certificated pilots unlike anywhere else in the world. And we had students in their UAS program, the first of its kind in the nation, begging to go out and get industry experience, and we were the only ticket in town that had an exemption, and birds. So it was until we had to have 2 pilots, and we couldn't come within 500 feet of anyone that was not participating in an operation. We couldn't go higher than 200 feet. We had to deal with these regulatory climate changes constantly. We had to have certificates of authorization. We had to go through the 8050-1 registration process. It's not as easy as it is anymore, where you can go online to register. And we had to cut our teeth constantly to make revenue to stay together as a business. And it was, I can tell you it was extremely difficult. Even with the most highly certified pilots in the United States, it was extremely difficult. Until the 29th of August, when finally the FAA came out with Part 107, which is totally different. And it takes into the lessons that we learned as a country under the hobbyist rules, which were Section 336, meaning you do not fly for profit. And there are a lot of considerations that people have to make in terms of the definitions of how do you make sure that you aren't flying under hobbyist rules. Not just only for the sake of insurance. Will your insurance cover you? Or what is the definition of, say, goodwill? If you're flying under a hobbyist rule and you're not flying under Part 107 and you're logging hours and you're able to advertise that you are that much more experienced of a pilot, is that goodwill? Is that valuable enough to say that you are operating commercially? And the truth is, it's difficult to say, at least from Part 107 standpoint and from an unmanned aircraft systems standpoint. Other definitions. The change from Section 333 to Part 107 means that any operation you go out on, you do not necessarily need a visual observer anymore. A pilot can go out with an aircraft on a 1-to-1 ratio now and fly commercially under Part 107. And you do not need to have specific exemptions for aircraft anymore. Under Section 333, we would have had to literally ask the FAA for each aircraft that we wanted to fly and wait. It can take around 6 months for them to say that, yes, we've demonstrated that we have the aircraft flight manuals, yes, we have the correct flight operations manuals, and we meet the standards that a company would be required of to go out and fly a specific, difficultly registered airframe. So it's interesting that now we can fly unmanned aircraft after having just gone online, not having proven anything as an entity, and not even necessarily even being Part 107 certified, and you can register an aircraft commercially with $5. So you can go online and you can go registermyuas.faa.gov, and within seconds you could get this out of the box registered, and you yourself not necessarily be a Part 107 pilot. To get Part 107, you either have to already hold a private pilot's license and get a CFI, manned CFI, to certify you through the web portal called IACRA, or you have to pay $150 to go through a ground school, and you can take a test at a certified testing center and become approved to fly as what's called a remote pilot. And you can fly these commercially and not just as a hobbyist. And the definition of what is a hobbyist and what is commercial is still interesting to navigate. But we've made a huge step forward in the realization of this industry, moving from Section 333 to Part 107. Part 107 took the better part of 10 years to get through Congress. And finally we have that. Under Part 107, you'll see probably the biggest difficulty in terms of definitions are the restrictions in being able to fly over people. So, under Section 333, the barrier was a clear 500-foot radius away from non-participants. That 500-foot radius no longer exists. If you're flying an unmanned aircraft under Part 107 commercially, you cannot create anything that's called undue hazard, which is not yet clearly defined by case law and is, by its own definition, not totally clearly defined, and is in itself, Part 107.41, in confliction with Part 107.19, which says that a remote pilot in command may not fly directly over any part of a person. So in these regulations we see, if I'm putting my hand out like this, a bird can't fly over here. But if I move my hand in, it can. But regardless of where it's flying in the near vicinity of me, and certainly within 500 feet, as far as engineering analysis would show us, you're still creating undue hazard. So the biggest difficulty, and where it comes down to the judgment of a pilot when flying under Part 107, is are you creating undue hazard or not. So if you go out and you fly under Part 107, or even if you're flying as a hobbyist under Section 336, my best advice is to use your judgment to see if you are creating any undue hazard or unwarranted hazard. The best two parts, I think, the biggest size of relief that my company had when the 29th of August came out with Part 107 regulations. On the 29th of August, SkySkopes, after having been the first 333 company in North Dakota, was the first 107 company, and we saw a path forward for two things. One is being able to fly unmanned aircraft systems commercially at night. And SkySkopes was the first one to be able to do that. This is important for storm damage assessment, say of energy infrastructure. The national energy grid is subject to storms at night. And in emergency responses, as SkySkopes has since demonstrated, it's important to be able to fly at night to help utility companies, for example, strategize their responses. It gives them better live stream data. The second thing that SkySkopes finally saw a path forward for was beyond visual line of sight. And if it comes down to unmanned aircraft, the number one definition conflict is going to be undue hazard, but the number one promise of this industry that is right now 10 billion and is going to be hundreds of billions soon because of beyond visual line of sight. So right now, under Part 107, you have to fly an aircraft, maybe you can fly half a mile out, and you can still see it in the air, and you can still argue that you have an equivalent level of safety and being able to see and avoid other aircraft and get out of the way. If you fly it further than 2 miles and you can't see it, you're flying illegally. But that's where the real promise of unmanned aircraft is, because that's where you're going to finally see unmanned aircraft adding further value to manned aviation and being able to collect further data in an efficient manner. Part 107 now finally addresses this issue of how am I going to fly beyond visual line of sight. And you can see in a clear web portal, you can apply for what's called a waiver. Similarly to waiving the need to fly at daytime and being able to fly at night, you can waive or apply to waive visual line of sight restrictions. Now, no one has gotten these commercially yet, but interestingly enough for us as North Dakotans, assuming you all are, our test site in Grand Forks was just awarded the first, and to my knowledge still the only permission by the FAA to fly beyond visual line of sight commercially. Sorry, for research, but not commercially. The next step, after they've proven out their operations, we'll see finally entities in business for profit being able to fly small unmanned aircraft and hopefully someday larger unmanned aircraft over 55 pounds beyond visual line of sight. So there's also no longer the requirement to file NOTAMs, and also flight operations under Part 107 can conduct flight training as of the 29th of August 2016. Previously, the only entity in the country that was allowed to fly small unmanned aircraft in a training function was Kansas State University, because they had built a giant net outside where you could still get GPS, and you could argue that there's absolutely no way an unmanned aircraft in that net is going to break the net and get onto the national airspace. So